Most people get Pisces completely wrong. They see softness and assume weakness. They see emotion and assume confusion. They see kindness, silence, sensitivity, and all that dreamy, oceanic energy, and they miss the one thing hiding underneath it all. Because when Pisces connects with Mars, you do not get a weak soul. You get a force that does not attack like fire. You get something stranger than that, something quieter, something harder to predict, and sometimes something even more powerful. Mars is the planet people associate with war, hunger, action, desire, survival, and raw instinct. It is the part of us that moves when life demands movement. It does not sit around and wait for permission. It wants. It pushes. It acts. Pisces, on the other hand, is the sign of compassion, intuition, mystery, imagination, and emotional depth. Pisces feels what other people miss. Pisces hears what is never spoken. Pisces is the current underneath the surface, the dream before the decision, the ache behind the smile. So what happens when that fierce Martian drive moves through Pisces energy? That is where things get fascinating. Because Mars does not rule Pisces. Pisces is not naturally a loud, aggressive, straight-line sign. And that is exactly why this connection matters. Mars in Pisces does not lose its strength. It changes the way strength looks. It stops looking obvious. It becomes emotional, intuitive, creative, spiritual, and deeply motivated by meaning. This is not the warrior with a sword raised in broad daylight. This is the warrior moving through fog, guided by instinct, fighting for something invisible but real. And if you have ever underestimated that kind of power, you are not alone. Pisces is a mutable water sign. That means it is not fixed like ice, and it is not explosive like steam. It flows. It adapts. It absorbs. It moves around obstacles instead of crashing into them headfirst. That alone explains why Pisces is so often misunderstood. In a world that respects noise, Pisces can look passive. In a culture that celebrates blunt ambition, Pisces can look lost. But underneath that softness is one of the deepest emotional operating systems in the zodiac. Pisces does not simply react to life. Pisces merges with it. It senses what is shifting before anyone else names it. It picks up moods, motives, pain, tension, hope, and longing like radio signals in the air. Now imagine Mars entering that space. Suddenly, action is no longer just about winning. Desire is no longer just about getting. Anger is no longer clean and simple. Everything becomes infused with feeling. Mars in Pisces acts through intuition. It acts through emotional truth. It acts when something touches the soul. That is why this energy can look slow at first. It is not always ready to rush into battle over small things. It is not always interested in proving itself. It does not burn energy for no reason. But the moment something becomes deeply personal, deeply meaningful, or deeply painful, that changes everything. And this is the first major secret of Pisces and Mars. Pisces may drift through what does not matter. But when something does matter, it can become relentless. Not loud, not flashy, relentless. This is the person who may ignore 100 shallow opportunities, then give everything to one dream, one love, one cause, one calling, one heartbreak, one act of mercy, one impossible vision that the rest of the world does not even understand yet. Mars in Pisces does not always chase what is practical. It chases what feels destined. That can be dangerous, beautiful, or both. And that is where the rise begins. Because at its highest level, this connection creates a kind of strength that many people never see coming. Mars gives Pisces motion. Pisces gives Mars soul. Mars gives Pisces the courage to act. Pisces gives Mars a reason that goes beyond ego. Put those together, and you get a person who does not just want power. You get a person who wants purpose. You get someone who can fight for healing, create out of pain, protect the vulnerable, defend what others overlook, and turn private emotion into extraordinary action. This is why Mars in Pisces is so often linked to artists, healers, visionaries, romantics, spiritual seekers, and people whose greatest strength emerges when their heart is fully involved. They may not always dominate a room the way Aries Mars does. They may not command a battlefield the way Capricorn Mars might, but they can move mountains in another way. Through endurance, through emotional conviction, through devotion, through the strange, almost supernatural ability to keep going when logic says stop. Think about water again. People call it gentle because they only notice the surface. But water reshapes coastlines. Water wears down stone. Water survives and forms fire cannot. That is Mars in Pisces. It does not need to explode to change everything. It just has to keep flowing. But this is not an easy placement. Not even close. Because the same emotional depth that gives Pisces its power can also blur its direction. Mars likes clarity. It likes targets. It likes a direct line between desire and action. Pisces is rarely that simple. Pisces feels 5 things at once. Pisces sees both sides. Pisces can understand the wound in the person who caused the pain. Pisces can hesitate, not because it is weak, but because it sees too much. And that can create one of the hardest patterns in this entire connection. Mars in Pisces does not always know how to be angry in a clean way. That matters more than people realize. When anger comes to a fire sign, it can come out fast. When anger comes to Pisces, it often mixes with sadness, guilt, longing, confusion, compassion, and memory. So instead of confrontation, there may be withdrawal. Instead of a sharp no, there may be silence. Instead of direct conflict, there may be avoidance, self-sacrifice, or emotional escape. This is where the shadow side appears. This is where Pisces can start leaking energy instead of using it. This is where action turns into delay, compassion turns into overgiving, and emotional intelligence turns into emotional exhaustion. And if that pattern goes too far, Pisces stops fighting for its own life while still fighting for everybody else. That is the fall. This energy can defend strangers and still struggle to defend itself. It can save people who never asked to be saved. It can confuse being needed with being loved. It can wait for others to magically understand what was never clearly spoken. It can pour enormous passion into fantasy while neglecting the hard, ordinary action that real life requires. That is one of the painful truths of Pisces linked with Mars. Enormous emotional force does not automatically become effective action. It has to be directed. It has to be grounded. It has to be claimed. And that is where the next transformation happens. Because one of the greatest lessons Mars teaches Pisces is this: feeling is not enough. Feeling matters. Intuition matters. Compassion matters. But at some point, the dream has to become a decision. The longing has to become a boundary. The love has to become a standard. The inner knowing has to become movement. Mars pushes Pisces out of pure imagination and into embodiment. It says, your tenderness is real, your vision is beautiful, your empathy is a gift. Now do something with it. This is when Pisces becomes truly powerful. Not when it stops feeling, but when it stops apologizing for needing to act. Not when it becomes cold, but when it understands that boundaries are sacred too. Not when it kills the dream, but when it gives the dream a spine. That is the real magic here. Mars does not ruin Pisces. Mars sharpens Pisces. And Pisces does not weaken Mars. Pisces humanizes Mars. In love, this connection is intense in ways words barely capture. Pisces with strong Mars energy does not love in a casual, surface-level way. It wants emotional depth, spiritual chemistry, soul recognition. It wants the kind of connection that feels bigger than time. This can make Pisces incredibly romantic, loyal, and tender. It can create love that is poetic, healing, almost transcendent. But it can also create dangerous blind spots. Because when Pisces wants to believe, it can believe too much. When Pisces sees potential, it can fall in love with what could be instead of what is. And when Mars is tied to that longing, desire can become intoxicating. That is why this energy must learn one hard thing in relationships. Not every intense feeling is a sign. Sometimes it is a lesson. Sometimes it is projection. Sometimes it is loneliness wearing a beautiful mask. And once Pisces learns that, everything changes. Love becomes less chaotic. Desire becomes wiser. Passion becomes more discerning. Instead of drowning in fantasy, Pisces begins to choose connection that can survive in daylight, not just moonlight. In work and purpose, the same rule applies. Pisces linked with Mars thrives when there is meaning. This is rarely the energy of empty ambition. It needs heart. It needs inspiration. It needs something worth caring about. That is why this connection can be extraordinary in music, film, writing, counseling, healing, charity, spiritual work, advocacy, and any path where feeling and action can support each other. Give Pisces Mars a mission that matters, and it can outwork people who once dismissed it. Not because it wants applause, but because something inside it believes the work is sacred. And when Pisces believes something is sacred, it can endure more than almost anyone expects. That is the final twist in this story. People think power is always visible. They think strength announces itself. They think the strongest people are the ones who dominate, control, and never crack. But Pisces and Mars tell a different story. They tell us that real strength can be soft-spoken. That courage can come wrapped in compassion. That some of the fiercest people in the world are the ones who feel everything and still move forward anyway. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Pisces teaches Mars that not every battle should be won through force. Some battles are won through timing, through intuition, through mercy, through faith, through refusing to become cruel in a cruel world. Mars teaches Pisces that not every truth can stay inside the heart forever. Some truths must become choices. Some dreams must become action. Some pain must become motion, or it turns inward and becomes self-destruction. Put those lessons together, and you get one of the most hauntingly powerful combinations in astrology. The dreamer with a blade, the healer with fire, the mystic who finally moves. So if you have ever looked at Pisces and seen only softness, look again. Underneath that ocean surface is pressure, instinct, hunger, and a level of emotional courage many louder signs never develop. Pisces connected with Mars is not here to win every battle in the obvious way. It is here to transform the meaning of battle itself, to prove that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it prays, sometimes it creates, sometimes it forgives, sometimes it walks away, sometimes it stays, and sometimes, after everyone else has given up, it keeps moving with quiet, unstoppable force. That is Pisces and Mars. Not weakness touched by power, but power refined by soul. If this opened your eyes to Pisces in a new way, hit like, share this with someone who keeps underestimating soft people, and subscribe for more astrology that goes deeper than the stereotype.
Thanks again for watching the video. I truly appreciate your support. If you enjoy it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I really help a lot and motivate me to keep making more videos for you. See you in your next one. Bye.